Picture a 19th century frontier cabin. Let your mind settle into the quiet details of this space, a world carved from wood and will. The air smells of pine resin, wood smoke, and the faint, earthy scent of the surrounding wilderness. This isn't just a shelter, it's a self-contained universe, a fortress against the vast, untamed landscape that stretches for miles in every direction. Every object within these four walls has a purpose, a history, a weight of necessity. There are no decorations for decoration's sake, only the stark, functional beauty of survival. Look to the pantry, the heart of the home's endurance. It seems to be bursting with the fruits of a hard-won harvest. Sacks of flour, milled from wheat grown in a freshly cleared field, are stacked against the wall, promising bread through the long winter. Their presence is a bulwark against hunger, a testament to months of toil under an unforgiving sun. Each sack represents not just food, but security, a tangible measure of the family's ability to endure the lean months ahead. Beside the flour, there are bags filled with dried beans, their smooth, hard surfaces a promise of hearty, protein-rich stews. They are the dependable backbone of countless meals, simple, nourishing, and capable of being stored almost indefinitely. And hanging from the rafters, away from pests, are slabs of salt pork, the precious fat and protein carefully cured to last until the spring thaw. This is the currency of calories, the raw fuel required to chop wood, haul water, and simply stay warm. The pantry is a fortress of sustenance, a carefully managed bank of life. But the true treasure of this household, the item that multiplies the value of everything else, isn't stored in the pantry at all. It's tucked away carefully, perhaps in the rafters or in a small wooden box by the hearth. It's a small, unassuming leather pouch, softened with use, containing a few precious needles and a spool of sturdy thread. This is the engine of maintenance, the guardian of every other resource. Because survival wasn't just about having enough calories to burn. It was about having the capacity to maintain the systems that made life possible. It was about the ability to repair, to restore, to reclaim. It was the understanding that nothing was disposable, that every single item from a shirt to a grain sack represented an investment of time, labor, and scarce resources. This is the story of the other essentials, the unsung heroes of the household that turned a stockpile of provisions into a functioning, resilient life. Let's open that pouch and explore the quiet tools of self-reliance. First and foremost, before all else, came the tools for repair and maintenance. In a world without convenience stores or overnight shipping, the ability to fix what was broken was paramount. A simple sewing kit wasn't a hobbyist's pastime or something nice to have. It was a critical piece of life support equipment, as vital as an axe or a rifle. It was the first line of defense against the slow, relentless entropy that threatened to unravel everything. Consider the humble needle, a sliver of polished steel, sharp and precise. In an era when textiles were immensely valuable, a shirt could represent weeks of labor, from shearing the sheep to spinning the wool to weaving the cloth. A tear was not a reason for disposal. It was a call to action. One sharp needle, carefully guarded, was the tool that could turn a ripped shirt back into a protective layer against the cold. It could patch a worn-out pair of trousers, extending their life for another season of hard work. Paired with the needle was strong thread, often made of linen or heavy cotton, waxed with beeswax to help it glide through tough fabric and resist rot. This thread was the suture that held the fabric of life together, and to protect the finger that pushed this needle through dense wool or canvas, a simple thimble, whether made of brass, steel, or even carved bone. And finally, a good pair of scissors, their steel blades kept sharp and clean, were essential for cutting patches cleanly and trimming frayed edges, ensuring a durable, lasting repair. These tools kept the family warm and protected. They mended the wool blankets that were the only barrier against the freezing night. They patched the canvas cover of the wagon, the grain sacks that held the winter's food, and even the sails of a boat if you lived near water. To lose your last needle or run out of thread was to be truly vulnerable. A small tear, left unmended, would inevitably grow, exposing you to the elements, allowing precious grain to spill, and accelerating the decay of vital equipment. A lost needle meant a slow, creeping failure of your entire system. Next, we turn to the fundamental forces of light and fire. When the sun went down, the world plunged into a profound darkness we can barely imagine today. The ability to create and control light was the ability to extend the day, to work, to read, to mend, to simply exist in the hours of darkness. It pushed back the primal fear of the unknown that lurked just beyond the cabin walls. The primary sources of light were often homemade. Tallow candles, rendered from animal fat, gave off a smoky, sputtering light and a distinctive smell, but they were a reliable and readily available option. Oil lamps, burning whale oil or later kerosene, offered a brighter, steadier flame. A stock of spare wicks was crucial, as a lamp without a wick is just a glass bottle. These items represented a significant investment, and the fuel was used sparingly, often with just one lamp lit to illuminate the task at hand. Of course, light required fire, and making fire was a foundational skill. If you were prosperous or had access to a well-stocked general store, you might have matches. These early friction matches were a marvel of convenience, but they were also expensive, fragile, and susceptible to dampness. For most, the reliable method was the ancient technology of flint and steel. A sharp piece of flint, struck against a high-carbon steel striker, would shave off tiny particles of iron that ignited in the air, creating a shower of sparks. Catching these sparks required a tinderbox, containing something that could hold an ember, like char cloth, a piece of linen or cotton fabric that has been pyrolyzed until it's pure carbon. A single spark caught on the char cloth creates a persistent, smokeless glow. This ember would then be transferred to a tinder bundle of dry grass, shredded bark, or cattail fluff, and gently blown into flame. This process, repeated daily, was the rhythm that started each day. And with fire came everything. Fire meant warmth, the difference between comfort and hypothermia. It meant the ability to cook raw ingredients, unlocking their nutrients and making them safe to eat. It meant the power to sterilize water for drinking, or to clean a wound, a critical medical function in a world without antibiotics. And out in the vast darkness, a fire was a beacon, a signal, a point of order and civilization in the overwhelming chaos of the night. With fire and food secured, attention turned to the tools that did the work. This meant diligent edge care. A dull axe is a dangerous and inefficient tool. A dull knife makes butchering an animal or even peeling a potato a frustrating, hazardous chore. In this world, you didn't simply replace your tools when they became worn. You maintained them. You sharpened them. A good tool was a partner for life, and its edge was its voice. The essential kit was simple. A good whetstone, perhaps with a coarse side for reshaping a damaged edge, and a fine side for honing it to razor sharpness. A small file was invaluable for dressing the edge of an axe or other heavily used tool, and alongside them, a simple, pointed awl. This tool, often overlooked, was a specialist of immense importance, particularly for working with leather and other thick materials. While a needle could sew cloth, it would break if forced through leather or thick canvas. The awl's job was to punch a clean, precise hole first. This allowed a heavy-duty needle and thread to pass through without tearing the material, creating a much stronger and more durable seam. It was the key to repairing horse harnesses, moccasins, belts, and canvas tarps. An awl, combined with a sailmaker's needle and wax thread, was the toolkit for heavy-duty repairs, ensuring the gear that did the hardest work could be maintained indefinitely. Just as thread-stitched fabric, cordage bound the larger world together. A bundle of good rope or twine was a problem solver of infinite versatility. It wasn't a single tool, but 100 potential solutions waiting to be realized. Strong rope could be used to haul logs, hoist game for butchering, or lower buckets into a well. Thinner twine could be used to tie up grain sacks, lash a splint onto a broken tool handle, or create a makeshift hinge for a gate. It could be woven into nets for fishing or trapping. Every piece of cordage, from the finest sail thread to the thickest hemp rope, was a resource to be guarded. Knots were tied in such a way that they could be undone, preserving the rope for its next use. This was the technology of connection, the ties that literally held the physical world together. A good supply of cordage meant you could build, bundle, hoist, and secure. Without it, you were left with a pile of disconnected pieces. Beyond the physical, there was the need to manage information. In a life governed by seasons and long-term planning, memory was fallible. The tools for writing and record-keeping were essential for creating an external memory, one that wouldn't fade with the passing of winter. The technology was simple. A few graphite pencils, which didn't require a fragile point or ink that could freeze, and a small ledger or notebook. This ledger was the brain of the homestead. It was used for keeping accounts, tracking how much flour was left, or how many bushels of corn were traded. It noted debts owed and favors to be repaid. Crucially, it was the family archive, marking the dates of births, deaths, and marriages. It was a way to impose order on the chaos of time, to track progress, and to pass knowledge to the next generation. A letter written home, sealed with a drop of wax, was a lifeline to a world left behind. And then there was the battle against an invisible enemy: filth. In our modern world, we think of cleanliness as an aesthetic choice. In the 19th century, it was a matter of life and death. The simple combination of soap and lye was a cornerstone of public health. Soap, often made at home by boiling animal fats with lye derived from wood ash, was not a luxury. It was a preventative medicine. Clean hands prevented the spread of disease. Clean clothes, washed in hot water with strong lye soap, were less likely to harbor lice or other pests. Cleanliness also protected equipment. Wiping down and oiling metal tools prevented rust. Keeping leather harnesses clean and conditioned prevented them from cracking and breaking. Hygiene was a discipline that kept both the family and their essential gear healthy and functional. Finally, no household was an island forever. Interaction with neighbors or traveling traders was inevitable. And for that, you needed a currency. When coins were scarce, barter was the rule. And the most effective items for trade were what was known as trade bait. These were small, portable, high-value items that were always in demand. Think of a handful of shiny brass buttons, a paper of straight pins, or a few extra precious steel needles. A dozen fishhooks could be traded for a basket of fresh vegetables. A few yards of colorful thread might be bartered for some much-needed salt. These items were cheap to acquire in bulk from a city, but were worth their weight in gold on the frontier. They were a form of stored value, a way to acquire things you couldn't produce yourself, greasing the wheels of a small, localized economy. So if the food in the pantry kept you alive from one day to the next, it was this collection of quiet, unassuming tools that kept your life working. They were the instruments of resilience. With them, you could mend what was torn, sharpen what was dull, record what was important, illuminate the darkness, and engage with the world around you. This was the kit that guarded your most precious, non-renewable resource: your time. This was the kit that guarded your warmth by keeping your clothes and blankets whole. This was the kit that guarded your health by enabling cleanliness and the sterilization of water. And in a very real sense, this was the kit that guarded your dignity. The ability to present yourself with clothes that were patched, not tattered, was a statement of order and self-respect in a world that constantly threatened to pull you into disarray. When you build this capacity for maintenance and repair, every other resource you possess is amplified. Every sack of flour, every piece of clothing, every tool stretches farther. You are no longer just a consumer of your resources, but a custodian of them. You are an active participant in your own survival. That little leather pouch, with its humble contents, it was independence, stitched tight against the wilderness.